It's reminding me of a client I had a long time ago who wanted to expand his psychic abilities. And he had been working on it for several months and came in um, to have services with us. He said, well, you know what? If I don't have it in 3 months, I said, you're gonna what?
To who? Like, right? To what? To who? Like,
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna shake my fist at the sky, I guess. So he should have stayed out of the future and stayed in the moment and continued the process.
Time is a very strange concept to get your head around because it exists and yet it doesn't exist. Well, we were born, that's my beginning, and I'm 83 years old now, and I've come a long ways down this timeline, and I don't know how much more time I have till my time runs out. So it's a linear concept of time. But in quantum mechanics, physics, there's no time and there's no space, because there's only the zero flux, the present moment, which is everything. Now that's a hard thing to get your mind around. Problematically, we spend most of our time in the past and project into the future, and we spend very little time in the present. And the present was given to us, and that's why it's called the present. We should spend more time in the present, but we don't. And it's so odd when you realize that.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun, and you have arrived at Call for the Truth. We will begin our talk today with asking Tarvars if he will bring us into truth.
yes, and we encourage you all who are listening, tuning in with us to join us in the call for the truth. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And now that we are within this frequency of truth, we encourage you, if you want to continue joining us in our exploration of truth, like, subscribe, share this with someone who wants the truth to come back into our world. And on today's episode, so we're talking about time,
Yes,
but
we're going to talk about time.
but specifically detaching from the officialdom of time as we know it and how it has us locked in and enslaved and in these hypnotic cycles that really time has been working against us, but in our understanding or perception of time as it's been sold to us. So my question to you is, would you start us off with, what is time? And also as that relates to what's the present, what's the past, what's the future?
Okay.
Is time isn't even real? Like, what's going on here?
The reality of creation is the eternal now. That is the reality. The reality of creation is we are all always in the eternal now. However, for the methods of being able to identify, we have what we consider the past, which are the moments of the now from before. And then we have the anticipated moments, which are the moments that we would consider the future. And we have been moved more into the past in our movies and our songs and our stories.
Nostalgia.
Earthlings love stories. So we either have science fiction of the future, or we have things, historical things of the past, none of which is verifiable or provable to be true, but we like stories. So we're constantly being taken out of the eternal now moment into the past or into the future in so many ways. And it's not to say that we cannot anticipate a moment and that we are not the culmination of all that has come before us, but we are in our power most in the eternal now moment. So does that answer it?
It does. And I think this is somewhere within the lexicon of the people who are watching. They can get with, time is now, that eternal moment, right? So you were using this language, anticipation of the future, not necessarily future, but this idea of what is to be anticipated. And would you speak on this idea of how our futures, you actually have a maxim on these Call for the Truth divination cards where it says our future is constantly changing its potentialities exponentially based on what's being thought. I'm glad I remember that. I got it. Boom, 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 boom. Like, what is, talk to us. How is that, like this idea of, because there's these understandings of the future set in stone, or it was written, and these concepts of time and as it relates to the future.
Well, actually, what you just said, I'll speak to that. This idea of what is written, that is a truth, an eternal truth. What is written cannot be unwritten, but most things are not written. So,
so there's a couple of things out there written, not everything.
But what is written is who your daddy is, who your mother is. That is written. That has been written before you arrived. It's not up to chance. You're not going to be bought in by a stork and delivered to the wrong people. Yeah. That is written. What your parents do in that relationship is unwritten. And we can see what the unwritten looks like.
Yeah.
The kind of relationships people have, like, I think that person is for me forever, but that's not what was written. But you still get to experience the dynamic of what you can do in the relationship to make it glorious or something else.
My mind is going elsewhere. I'm like, is this even appropriate? They're like, say it. I got to say it. So when we speak of running the simulation, the soul before it comes in, the looseness or flexibility of what has not been written, would you say that's accounted for within the simulation?
Absolutely. This is a free choice universe. So free choice is included in the simulation because it's universal law. This is a free choice universe. Everybody is free. We're so free, we bind ourselves and enslave ourselves to people and things and places all the time.
It's going to be a future episode.
We are that free. So we choose to experience different experiences on the greater idea of enlarging our consciousness to become more through different experiences. So you don't usually come in for 100 lifetimes doing exactly the same thing. You may choose to come in and not have children because you've had children, 300 times and you know how to do that. You may come in and decide to pursue business or money or career or any number of things because that is the evolution of the soul, to grow and expand and to experience many things. You may have many different lovers because you may need the expansion of the expression of different people, or you may have many different siblings. You may choose to be born into a family with 14 children so you can have the experience of the many expressions. It's an appropriate way to grow.
Right, so I want to take it back a little bit. Thank you. So we spoke about anticipation of the future and how the anticipation of the future kind of involves things that are written based off of the soul's agreement of what it's designed to do here. And then there's some looseness within the experience, so to say, or flexibility of what happens between the markers, so to say, of or milestones that the soul is to hit within this growth and evolutionary process. Because from what you're saying and what it looks like to me, it's like I see it can go a couple of different ways, but like the destination is still.
There's room for creativity. The universe is creative. So a soul comes in and has a creative moment. It's accounted for in the simulation. It's accounted for in the way that things go. It's part of the glory of expansion and evolution, is that moment where it's not written.
Yeah.
That can take everyone somewhere else. But what is written is to your greatest benefit because it gives you the markers, as you say.
Okay, I want to bring it back because me talking about simulation is taking us somewhere else. If you want to hear more about the simulation, drop a comment, say simulation, and we'll talk about the simulation another time. Okay, so time. You mentioned something about movies and film and how it informs the future,
Yes.
or how it creates a level of anticipation. So there's something that often comes to mind, and I ask people, how do you envision the future? And sometimes people can't envision anything beyond the movies that have been curated. Oh, Hunger Games or Terminator and Skynet. And there are some aspects of reality that are playing out like that, but it's as if the idea of time is being influenced based off of what we're consuming and bringing into our consciousness. And would you talk about this and how essentially how we're being controlled through media to influence time?
The controllers of this world, the herders of this world, are intimately engaged with our movies and our music. We can see that in the scandals that exist right now. They're intimately engaged in making sure that we not only see Hunger Games, but we see it 3 times.
Yeah.
We don't just see,
And then a bunch of spin-offs.
we see Superman 500, we see Batman 3000, it goes on and on and on without the creativity of a new idea. It's just the same idea. They like that, so give it to them again. Remix that corned beef hash and serve it up as dog food. It's that idea of this is the message that we need to get across. There is this villain, and then there's this hero, and the hero is rich, and the hero is always rich, and he always has all the tech, and he always does he has all the things, and he has all the connections to all of the people with all of the power, and he has personal servants, and he has a plane and a car. I mean, it's pretty much whether it's
Talking about Batman?
I'm
like, damn, Batman fits the mold.
Well, I don't know. I think a few others may fit it as well.
Iron Man.
You keep thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off there, but there's several.
It's the idea that that person is above the law. Everyone else has to. That person is going to save everybody. We're going to put up this, in Batman, we're going to put this signal up in the sky, and he's going to come and rescue us. That's an old story. That somebody will come and get us and save us from something. It's the same story as in the Bible. It's the same story over and over and over again. That keeps us constantly in that thinking that we're not the responsible party, that it is not our responsibility to save ourselves. It's not our responsibility to do the thing that the hero does.
Yeah.
And then there's always the anti-hero, which people identify with too. And then, so there is that. So we're being fed this consistent toxic diet of the same thing. My generation saw it, then your generation saw it, the next generation is seeing it. So we're being informed, so to say, through time and space from the same playbook. And so we're always, the music is always the same, There's no sunshine without you. I can't exist without you. I have to have a lover or I'm not going to live. All of that is part of what we're being controlled by, in the same way that, Barbie and Ken and the idea of those who represent, the dream now, the way they behave, the way they look, the way they dress, the artificial parts they purchase, is all what we're being moved into, this position of weakness, as if we were not divine beings who could be sovereign beings and manage ourselves.
I have a wild perspective that's rising up. So hearing you say that from generation to generation, there's a perpetual loop of themes and archetypes that are impressed upon our consciousness to influence the expectation of a future within time through us, our creative imagination, right? And as I'm looking at this, there was this thought that arose where, on average, humans are only living like 70, maybe 80 plus years on average. And there's like an issue with memory and understanding or retention. And then I began to see ancestry within time and how there's some type of severing of the memory that takes place that kind of influences are being stuck in this perpetual loop that's being created within time to reinforce. Where I think one of the simplest examples would be uh, our great grandparents had a certain cycle of pattern, and now we got it, and there's like no real connectivity with the ancestries within time and past, and how that informs our present to inform our future in a positive way, where we can kind of break cycles, break patterns. It's a little more like deep snorkeling gear type of a concept, but how's that landing?
What's the question?
Well, the question is more so, well, it was really a statement, and I'll turn it more so into a question in terms of how does their influence of time affect us in terms of our lineage, our ancestry.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you kind of touched on it through some of your examples, but just a little deeper.
So much has been done to us. We have been silenced, and we have, what our divinity has been stolen from us. And there are thousands of things that are in support of that. So our DNA has been tampered with. We all know we have 2 strands of DNA. That's a big thing. We are in the lower there are 12-dimensional levels, and we are in the 3rd of the 12-dimensional levels. So we are in the lower range with 2 strands of DNA being presented with the idea that somebody else will come, someone else is the authority, that there's an intermediate area between yourself and your own divinity, and that you are not the hero in the story, but you're one of the people who need to have the hero come for you. And then there's this whole idea of everything interrupts your quiet. So the space in which you could find the deep silence that connects you to the greater cosmic experience, you've got phones beeping, you've got things buzzing, you've got people, honking cars and airplanes traveling over you, that keeps interrupting your ability to get to where you need to go.
Which maybe would be present.
Where you can't stay in the present, because you're in the present, you're breathing, you're in the present. The breath is the animating force. It is the God force. You breathe in the animating force. You're there, and then you hear the police cars, or then you hear airplanes, or then you hear things buzzing. We have not found the space of quiet. We've moved away from the quiet of nature into the cities, where we're distracted, but we're of the thinking that we can only survive in the cities, that we can't survive and have things living on the farms or in the rural areas where the quiet in nature is, that represents the creation principles. That we can look at nature and see how the birds treat the babies, how they build the nests, how they're not concerned about tomorrow, how they, all of these things escape us in the cities and tenements and then tight houses where we can hear other people's phone calls whether we want to or not. So all of this is a distraction that robs us, silences and stills our power from us. So this is part of the bigger idea of why we're needing to know that we need to be in the eternal now, because everything makes us look into the future or makes us look into the past. And that keeps us from accessing our power, and it keeps us breathing shallow. We have to breathe deep to bring in the power that then will allow us to be in the present moment in power, where what we say in this moment is so. And not, what we think about tomorrow is an anticipation, which may very well be, and we think of that as manifestation. But of course, what you do has residual effects, and it does lean over, but we're talking in a little bit more strict sense about time. And then the idea that we know that people with Alzheimer's are not here, they're in the past. We consider that a problem. that they're like still in school when they're 60 and they're talking about walking to school and they don't come out of that. That's where going to the past love affairs, going to the past hurts, going to the past slights, remembering what someone said when you were 10, what the people in the neighborhood thought, what your mother said, whatever thing that has got your attention that makes you turn to the past. That's that same idea as what we consider in our world and what we term Alzheimer's, where we don't want to be here, we want to be somewhere else. But where we are, we don't have any power now.
That's interesting because it does show how the concept of time being a construct in and of itself is happening all up here.
Absolutely.
Through consciousness and perception. I think the example of Alzheimer's really drove it home because, of course, the person's here, but like up here, they're a couple of decades back.
Same with fear. We're constantly being pressed into fear, which always keeps us in the future. They're going to do something. Something's going to happen. Some country's going to do something. Somebody's going to go forward. That's always in the future.
And this is what I was asking earlier about the influence from media or governing bodies that, but really evil forces, how they're using our imagination, our thought energy to create a future of really enslavement and domination, something that we don't really want, but then again,
we have been studied.
It's anticipated, literally.
It's anticipated.
It's anticipated that there's going to be robots that kill us.
Yeah, so we have been studied, and the way our brain works is that whatever someone says to us over and over and over again, we believe it.
Yeah.
So if we see the same movie for 5 decades, we believe it.
So what are a couple
of... So we believe that aliens are coming to hurt us. We believe whatever it is that we're seeing in the movies, and who's making the movies, and who's deciding where those many millions of dollars is going, and what is the end goal.
I want to ask, what are a couple of different solutions to take back our influence in working with time in such a way where it's working for us and not against us? Because you literally gave one earlier, speaking about the breath. I think a lot of people sleep on it. I'm all about that breath and how it can really move you into that space. I mean, I have 2 questions. I know we're getting close to the end of time.
Do you want me to answer that one first?
Per se, but yes, please.
It is very easy in any situation to determine what to do first. In this situation, we look at what is it that we need absolutely and cannot exist without for more than 2 or 3 minutes. I know you don't need breath because you've been studying how to be alive and not breathe for 2 minutes. However, the rest of us...
At some point, I will have to inhale.
The rest of us... So it's easy to know what we need to go to. You first must decide that you want to be at peace. The decision is everything. If you don't decide, you can never get to the next breath, which is to breathe. And to breathe with some direction and purpose. To deeply breathe, to bring in that which is from creation that animates us, and without it, we cannot exist. That's always first. Food and water is close. Food you got a little bit more leeway with, And
oxygen, though.
But yeah, so the matter of priority is looking at how does the body animate? Breath. Get somewhere where there's clean air, buy plants. Put plants in your room that create oxygen for you. The planet air is not what it once was. Then make sure you have clean water. And then fill yourself up with food that brings you life. It will always be those 3 things first. Decision comes before those 3 things. Deciding, people do die from not breathing. So
pass out lifting weights too. I've seen the visual. So 2 more questions. This is a combo question. How does being in the moment help stay within your power, and also how does being in the moment help with manifestation?
I think the idea that we want to share with everyone is that there is no power in the past for you to access in the now to make something happen. There is no power in the future for you to access in the now to make something happen in your now. You're not there yet. You've already left that space. So ultimately, the now moment is the space where the eternal moment that is always now is the space in which creation may take place. Well, and that means whether you're writing, whether you're doing music, it is in that moment of life moving through you that births the next thing and that next now moment. And does that?
Most certainly. It's deep, but at the same time, it feels like it has a level of practicality with it. You know, again, just to reiterate, like, you look back there, it's already gone. That hasn't even happened. I mean, it sounds so simple and basic, but I think really what it's about is this reminding of self, you know, to stay within that knowingness, that understanding of these concepts of how time works and our relationship to it.
Especially in this level of understanding, where this is introductory level of understanding. In this level of understanding, it's important to know, discipline yourself to be now. Then you can whatever you are looking to accomplish can be accomplished. It doesn't mean that in every single situation, in every single aspect, that there's nothing anywhere else. But this is a basic understanding. Stay now. Don't drift off and daydream about tomorrow, or you will have passed away many days and still have nothing.
It's funny, I'm thinking about what the guidance often shares to us. Just the basics. We need you all to get just the basics and you'll be all right. I'm going to do a card.
All right. Would you tell me what your card will be? What's the question today for you? Oh, something's jumping out of the deck.
To see the truth as it relates to our understanding of time.
Okay.
And the theme is freedom, sacral chakra.
Yeah.
And the maxim reads, allow yourself the freedom to be patient. If you rush through something, you miss the beauty in the moment.
Yes.
That was meant for you. Do not stress.
Love these cards.
I want to read the what's in addition with that. And it reads, do not lock yourself into impatience prison. So, I mean, this is beautiful because it just really builds on what you've been saying about the presence and, you know, the direction of our life force and our energy with the sacral as it relates to focus and time.
It's reminding me of a client I had a long time ago who wanted to expand his psychic abilities. And he had been working on it for several months and came in to have services with us. He said, well, you know what? If I don't have it in 3 months, I'm gonna. I said, you're gonna what?
To who? Like, right? To what? To who? Like.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna shake my fist at the sky, I guess. So he should have stayed out of the future and stayed in the moment and continued the process, because trying to punish the universe for the way things are is really an idea that doesn't serve you. The joy and the exaltation of knowing that something can give you the gratitude that catapults you into the thing you want. But that comes from joy, not from anger. So we are really happy that you joined us today. We thank you for coming. We give you the greetings of Inlakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Thank you.